had told me, like, and I remember him saying it, and it was shocking to me, and it was upsetting to me. And I was telling him about how I just feel this discomfort, and I just feel so anxious, and so I just I want to do the right thing, and I feel like it's hard for me to remember the things sometimes. And he was like, yeah, I mean, it was probably a good at least 3 years before I started sleeping good at night. And knowing that God's with me, knowing that God has a plan for my life, and He's involved in my life, and He knows everything that's going to happen in my life before I was even born, and handing this to Him has been something that's helpful. So it's on the way in, I'm sort of handing Him some of my stress and my anxiety for if this thing comes up where I think, oh no, I can't remember this crap, and it's like So today I'm going to make a video about what I talked about in my last video, and it has to do with the idea of me asking God for help when I want to recall information that I've studied. So this is something that comes up, I think in general, if you're in the healthcare field, you're going to have this come up, but especially if you're a provider. So if you're like a physician, like a medical doctor or a doctor of osteopathy, or you're a nurse practitioner, or you're a physician assistant, those are the three common ones I would say are providers. And this will come up, and it especially comes up when you're new as a provider. So I'm going to talk about it from the lens of how it's been helpful for me being a Christian to address this, as opposed to maybe not having this perspective. And so I remember a conversation I had a collaborating physician that I was working with, and it was in my early time of being a nurse practitioner, and he had told me, and I remember him saying it, and it was shocking to me, and it was upsetting to me, and I was telling him about how I just feel this discomfort, and I just feel so anxious, and so I just I want to do the right thing, and I feel like it's hard for me to remember the things sometimes. And he was like, yeah, I mean, it was probably a good at least 3 years before I started sleeping good at night. And I'm sitting there hearing that, okay, this guy's telling me, I'm early on here, I'm six months in, and it's he's telling me it's okay, it's going to be a 2.5 more years minimum before I even sleep okay at night, or at least that's his experience. So that was frustrating to me, it was scary to me, and over time with experience, this significant stress and discomfort kind of subsides, okay? So if you're new as a nurse practitioner, over time it will get better. And I just want to talk about what that looked like for me to apply some things as a Christian for it to get better. And it's still difficult. It's still difficult today. I will have things come up where I just oh, well, I think I remember that in school, but wow, I haven't had a patient yet with that condition. And I will either talk to a colleague if possible, or I will look up and kind of review through appropriate resources, evidence-based resources and things, to find what is appropriate to do, what current guidelines are for this condition. And it's going to become more of a faster thing for me to do that, and that's been something that's developed over time. But in general, one thing I do, and I mentioned in prayer, is on my way into work, one of the things I do is ask God to help me to view people the way that He views them. And I'll ask Him to help me to love and serve people today. And another thing I commonly ask Him is, Lord, please help me to recall things from when I studied in school, and help me to recall the information that I need to help the patients that I'm going to care for today. And I think that knowing that God's with me, knowing that God has a plan for my life, and He's involved in my life, and He knows everything that's going to happen in my life before I was even born, and handing this to Him has been something that's helpful. So it's on the way in, I'm sort of handing Him some of my stress and my anxiety for if this thing comes up where I think, oh no, I can't remember this crap, and it's I kind of hand that to Him beforehand, and I can trust Him that He will help me to recall the information. And if I don't know the information, I still will go and find the resources. But I think there's some comfort in handing it to Him. And so if you're a healthcare provider and you struggle with this, and you're a believer in Jesus, then I think this is something that you have available to you, is to entrust God with this and to hand it to Him. and that's something that's been helpful for me. And if you're not a believer in Jesus, this is something, as I mentioned in a previous video, that can be started. You can start a relationship with God through what Jesus did 2,000 years ago on a Roman cross. And what he did was he basically lived a perfect life that none of us ever could. And we are, the Bible would say, sinful, that we are separated from God as a result of that sin, that we rebel against him, we do these morally wrong things, and God is a perfect God. Absolute perfection is his standard. So the only human who has been absolutely perfect based on God's standard is Jesus. And he took the punishment that we deserve, and we can call out to God and we can ask for him to forgive us for the wrong things that we've done. We have to admit that we've done wrong things, that we need forgiveness, and then ask for what Jesus did on the cross to apply to our lives and forgive us for what we've done wrong. And this is that gospel message, that main message of the Bible. It's the good news of the Bible. It's that Jesus forgives you. That's why he died on the cross. You have to receive it. You have to ask God for it. And that's something that can be secure, and that's something that helps to be with you throughout your days. If you're a healthcare provider, I can acknowledge God's presence with me and do things like this where I hand him some of the stresses that might come up throughout the day. And so hopefully this was helpful to go into a little more detail about what I meant when I talked about asking God for his help to recall information. And hope you guys continue to check things out. And let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments or anything like that. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like these videos. All right, thanks.